Hi, I'm Jim Eves, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast, career advice from people in the business. Today, I'm talking to production sound mixer Rob Entwistle. Rob's worked on a ton of high-profile projects, including the recent Netflix series Heartstopper and almost all of Ben Wheatley's films, including Kill List, Free Fire, and The Meg 2. This is a good one if you're interested in being part of a sound team on set, or you want to know more about how the sound department works with other departments on big productions. Enjoy. So could you talk me through how you first started with the sound? So did you go to uni, or did you, how did you?
I did. As an amateur student, I worked doing other things till I was sort of mid-20s, and I came to London to come to uni and did a film and TV course. And it was in our second year. So there used to be a thing called the Fuji Film Competition. I don't think it runs anymore. So students could make a short film, put it in this competition, like nationwide. And the third years needed someone to do their sound, and they needed someone to do the camera. And me and my friend Matthias, when he'd done stills, he said, "I'll do the camera." And I said, "Well, I used to be in bands. I quite like that side of it, so I'll do sound." I had no idea what I was going to do when I came out of uni. And so we ended up, that basically was the moment both our careers were kind of decided. And now he's a very successful DOP, and I do what I do.
And
based on that moment, really. Yeah.
I'll do the sound. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you left uni, were you doing, did you get your first paid gig after uni? Were you doing it at uni? How did that work for you?
Oh, definitely after. Yeah. It took, because I didn't really take the normal route to where I am now. So obviously we'll talk more about that. But I got into, so there's a thing called BBC Drama Lab, and I think it became Fiction Lab, and they did kind of these low budget sort of dramas, and I can't remember how, if I'm honest, got to do a few of those, and that was I started doing drama and film side of things. But then I started to get more work doing the documentary side, so the kind of drama stuff dropped off because I followed the money. You kind of had to back then. I'm a student coming out of with debt, and you needed to work and earn the money. So but then quite quickly, I think I graduated sort of 98, 99, and I was doing Top Gear by 2005. It took 5 years to get to a point where it was a proper career. But then I did some stuff with a guy called Ben Wheatley, who's for the first two films did them very documentary style, me by myself. And then as Ben Wheatley's stuff has kind of grown in size and budget, so has my crew and my kit, and to the point of where, we did The Meg last year, which is the biggest thing I've ever done with him, So, and that kind of brought me back out of the documentary style things, and into this. So this is what I do all the time now, and I'll do documentary stuff again if I fancy it. That sounds like I can pick and choose, but I still enjoy that.
Yeah,
but I really enjoy having a team. Yeah.
And how? So now you're at this stage. I'm assuming you get to select that team from people you've worked with before, or how does that work?
Yes, and obviously that's driven partly by availability of people. I'm not someone that likes to work project after project without a gap. That's not for me. So sometimes if you have a gap, people need to move on and do others. They want to carry on working, so they go. So you can't always get the same people. But so for example, who I'm with now is an entirely new team because it's a Welsh funded production. So it's a Welsh team who are brilliant. But when I'm going to go back to Heartstopper Series 3, which will be with Tom, who and the team from the previous series. Yeah. So I try to work with the same people, but it's not always possible.
Not always possible. But if you were in that position where you were looking to put that team together, maybe there were some spots open where people you usually use were busy. What are you
Yeah.
looking for when you're looking for those people? What is it you want to see or have heard about them?
For new people,
Yeah.
well, I'll use the thing I'm doing at the moment. So I know that they both worked on sex education, and I know that would have been a challenging um, program to work on for sound. So I that was my main thing, and also you just chat to people, and you get to you get good at knowing kind of how they're going to be, and their
Mm.
character. That's it, really. You just need to chat to someone.
Mm.
But you also need, they need the backing of having done something that you're familiar with and that you um, that is they'd have had to work hard on that and to be good.
Mm.
Otherwise, they would have stayed around on it. So, and my trainee on this, it sort of came through recommendations from my first AS, really. So it was him first, and the second he knew, and the same for the trainee. So it's kind of once I got chatting to him, and I really liked him. We kind of built the team from there, really. It's word of mouth, I guess,
Mm.
is the shortest way of saying
Yeah.
it. Yeah, in summary.
Yeah.
But they need to, and I'll look them up, and that's where IMDb does come in, and ask around and just get an idea. But also, I think if you like with Joss, who was my first on this, you get a sense of someone's character. They're not going to work with people that aren't, are grumpy or, they're going to work with people that if they've worked with them for a long time. There's a reason for that.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, obviously the main comment I get from students is this kind of view of a closed industry that is very
Right.
much who you know.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice to somebody leaving uni? How do they kind of get that experience to then get selected for this type of thing?
I mean, that view is, I can see how that view you know, um, is given, but the industry is quite, and also, coming on set for the first time is quite intimidating. I get that. And you kind of forget because the more you've been doing it, the more it's just a second nature, second home, isn't it? But you have to remember that for a lot of people, it isn't that. Um, well, I was thinking about this before. I think my route was so different. It's not really a route I'd recommend to get into what I'm doing now, but people do. It doesn't, it's not excluding that. It's just that I think the trainee route is the best.
Mm.
And there are, plenty of schemes across the country that do that. Certainly for my training on this was through the Welsh scheme. My agent Sarah Putt, they have a training scheme. So it's getting that first foot on the bottom rung of the ladder, isn't it, I suppose. But that I think doing it through a kind of an official channel is good, because you've got them as your base, I suppose. You're not just doing it by yourself. Um, and then I've every training I've had, through schemes or not have been, brilliant, but have gone on to, bigger and better things quite quickly. And getting a trainee isn't always easy because productions don't want to pay any money they don't think they have to. Whereas a lot of these schemes they'll pay half the fee, or they'll make a financial incentive for the production to take their trainees, and long may that live. And it's a tough industry, it's especially tough for a lot of people at the moment because of what's been happening with the strikes. And that means that the money, the purse gets tighter, doesn't it? So I've been lucky, I've been fortunate that most of the time I've had a trainee, and they've really made use of their time with me. Yeah.
So the advice is get try and get yourself on some sort of scheme where you get some training experience and completely ace that experience and be someone that people want to work with again.
Yeah, well, yes, I suppose, but yeah, just do some research because it's not just one. Look at BAFTA and look around all the agencies and see if they've got training schemes, and look at Screen Skills or Skill Set. I can't remember which one it is. And regional ones. They're all there, and it will. You're starting at the bottom. There's no jumping this system really, because you need the experience. You'll end up looking pretty silly pretty quickly if you don't take your time.
And how long would you say it takes for you to be able to do this full time and live comfortably? So live a normal life, and I say that with the knowledge that the way things
Forget
are at the
about the
moment.
normal life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Forget
Yeah.
about the normal life. But how long did it take you to get to a point where you were like, oh, okay, this is my job now, and I get paid to do this, and it pays the mortgage, etc., etc.
Yeah, tricky. It isn't a normal life, typical life. But it depends what what you want, I suppose. But I mean, I think it took me 5 years to get to the point where I was. But again, I don't like to use my example because I did it in such a different way. If let's say you were going through a trainee scheme, right? So I'll use an example of someone I worked with, and it didn't take her long because she was enthusiastic and gave it everything and just listened and watched and learned, and she got there really quickly. So that was 2-3 years, to get to that point that you're talking about. So it can be done that way, but it can't be done super quick.
Yeah,
because you simply don't have the knowledge. And it is, we're all in fear of being exposed as a charlatan in this industry. Even though doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, you still have that fear, which drives you.
yeah.
But I would never have liked to have, jumped from a trainee to suddenly being a boom op within a year. You have to build up. And that's just, it's the best way to be about it, but also just be a nice person. If you're not, you'll soon know if you like this. It'll soon become apparent if this is for you. I never thought it wasn't for me. I don't know why. There's something about doing this job and it was awfully stressful at times. And the money wasn't flowing great to begin with because it just isn't. It just wasn't the way I, went about it. But I just never thought would do anything else. Maybe that's just stubbornness. Maybe stubbornness is a good trait as well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it is.
Or stupidity. I can't. Maybe they're the same thing.
So stubbornness, stupidity. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. a little measure of both. And yeah, I guess it's like a bug. You get bitten by it, and you kind of want to be better at it. And you see people that are doing bigger and better things than you, and that's aspirational. And I think you want to kind of get to that point and at least have a go. And the Meg for me was that point really. We did it.
What's that
did
like
good.
then? Stepping onto something that's hundreds of millions of dollars have been put into it. Do you know what I mean? How's that feel day one? Are you crapping yourself, or are you just sort of, I'm all right, I've got this?
Well, not cracking, but I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. Off the clock, as it were. In the months preceding, once I knew I was doing it, and prepping and just thinking of everything, every available sort of possibility you can try and cover. I can't say it wasn't stressful because, of course, it's a massive machine. Films of that size are incredibly large, and the politics is really different. But I guess I've been doing what I do long enough to kind of fit into it. there's still a familiarity there. You still, your job is the same.
Yeah.
It's just you're in a bigger arena, but a brilliant one.
Yeah.
The sets were just mind blowing. And you're there, you're working in that. I think that's, I loved it. It was tough.
I bet it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was certainly when we went to Thailand, I found that really tough. The heat and humidity is just not kind to holiday. Absolutely, yeah, straight there. But it was tough. Yeah, the environment. Whereas the studio time was great. Yeah,
there is an element of that being able to withstand discomfort, because
absolutely.
you say you can't, I don't know about you, but you might be jetting off somewhere for so many months, drop everything, go and do this gig, and like you say, if it's somewhere hot or very cold, you've just got to kind of get on with it, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can only, I suppose having done Top Gear for so long, discomfort, is definitely a part of it. But I saw the world with that program, and amazing. No regrets. I've been very, very lucky and fortunate to have done all that and seen all those places. I just wouldn't have seen, 99% of the world I have without that. And I love the traveling, but I think as I've got older, I like it less.
Yeah, I know exactly what you
I
mean.
feel like I think as when I was younger, it was the best thing ever, and it was but I'm in Cardiff now, and I've been in Cardiff for 2 months. I've been home once. That's I enjoy that less as it goes on. But also, there's another thing, I suppose, is that sorry if I'm completely deviating from what you asked me.
That's all right.
I'm just following a train of thought as it goes. It's because the job is quite intense. Sometimes it's easy to be away.
Yeah.
You get back to the flat here I'm in, and you go to bed early. You get up in the morning, you do it again. So sometimes it's just easier.
It is. Way. Yeah, it's easier to be in it, isn't it? Because then you're not switching it off every day. You're just in it,
and it's so immersive. You're all your thoughts. You get back, you think about how the day went. You're lying in bed thinking about how tomorrow's going to go.
So how does working on a big studio picture or like a Netflix series, how's that compared to the Top Gear stuff? Because with the Top Gear stuff, is it as set up as, say, a day's shooting on a feature, or are you on the whole time because you're trying to catch sort of funny moments and stuff?
They're such different shoots. I mean, so Top Gear and the Grand Tour, they are scripted to a point, but then also then not. Anything can happen, and that's kind of what I liked about them. You prepare for everything, and on that show we had 3 sound recordists. So one for each presenter. So you kind of had buddies, as it were. But we got so kind of good at it over the years, and the kit and the systems we kind of put in the cars, got refined to a kind of a point where we kind of knew them so well, but also anything could happen. So it was kind of comfortable and not comfortable at the same time. But as opposed to, say, a Netflix show, such as Heartstopper, where obviously it's all scripted. You know exactly what's and then it's getting good sound within that, and getting the performances recording the way they should be. So it's just a different challenge. And I suppose using the Meg as a sort of megabucks one, that it's a different challenge all over again.
So talking about starting on that early Ben Wheatley stuff, I have heard of him, obviously. So you're working on those movies. When you work on films like that, are you aware that they're really good while you're making them, or do you ever think, I wonder if this will be any good with any of the stuff you make? Do you?
Yeah.
Because I saw you did In Fabric, which I love. I was like,
Yeah.
are you on that going, oh, this is going to be really good? Or are you like, well, this is a bit weird. Who knows what this is going to be like?
Well, I loved working with Peter
Mm.
Strickland. I did Duke and Burgundy with him as well. Um, if I start with the first thing I did with Ben, was Down Terrace. I didn't know if it was going to be good, uh, but then I saw it edited and finished, and I was like, okay, you know, he knows what he's doing. And then Kill List was like, I just he's such a clever person. His
Mm.
brains, massive and always working, and he's an editor as well, so he knows how to cut. The Kill List was different. I was like, I knew this was going to be good, in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, and with Heartstopper, yeah, straight away, yeah, this is nice. This is, and it, yeah, you get a feeling, I suppose, but it doesn't always mean you're right.
Mm.
I think we did. I've done some things where I thought, this just isn't going to work. Um, and then people love it. But, it's not like your finger isn't on the pulse, is it, at that point? Um, but because you're bringing your personal taste into it, aren't you? Um, but some things just, yeah, it's obvious. Yeah.
You know.
Did I answer that properly?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. No, I think that's kind of what I suspected.
Yeah,
But it's nice to have it confirmed because, like I say, I was thinking
yeah.
in particular of In Fabric. I was like, that must have been a weird shoot.
Oh my, absolutely. The stuff he does is different, right? And his whole kind of catalogue of where his stuff comes from is just different to everyone else's. But bring that on. Why not? He In Fabric was. I love it though. I love the madness. Is just
Yeah.
yeah. But he's it's all in here. Is it's he's got the overview of it all. You're just a part of that world, and it's a crazy world. But yeah, I love working with Peter.
So back at the beginning when you're doing stuff, sort of low budget, micro budget stuff, and you're
Yeah.
just starting out. So what I've come into contact with, and I've had this myself on some of the earlier films, is sound often gets sort of left later in the queue than everything else. And it's when you get to post production, you pay for that, but
Yeah.
on set it can get ignored a little bit and not appreciated. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to kind of put your foot down about sound? And I'm thinking more for students who are maybe in that arena,
Mm.
this whole thing of having the sort of confidence to say, hang on a minute, this isn't going to work what we're doing for sound, or we need to change something to make this work.
Budget doesn't always mean that sound will be. It does. It's not always budget related to that
Mm-hmm.
at all. It can be quite the biggest budget stuff. Um, or the lowest budget, it doesn't matter. So I suppose I get what you're getting at. But that's confidence, I suppose, isn't it, as well? To speak up and stand up for your role. And if you're just starting out, that is going to be harder, isn't it? Which is where being a trainee and working your way up becomes essential,
Mm.
because then you're not, by the time you get to the point of being the production sound mixer, your experience is already really, grounded and thorough. So you have the confidence of, and also you're with the mixer and the first S and the second S every day, and you're watching them, seeing what they do and how they deal with it, and you'll build your own way of doing it, of course. But if, like me, you go into it cold essentially, and you just start working, yeah, it's tricky doing it like that. But if you go the trainee route, it won't. Hopefully, it's always going to be the case at some point that you'll have to. What's the right way of putting this? As long as you know you've done your best, yeah, and you change what you can change, and don't sweat over what you can't. I think that's probably the best advice.
Mm. And the sound team
Mm-hmm.
often have to get reasonably up close and personal with actors, miking them up, stuff like that.
Yep.
Any advice on that for people new to that world?
Can be intimidating. um, be nice, be polite, be professional. That's simple. And if they have a problem with you and when you're doing all those things, then it's not you, is it? You've got a job to do, and just do it efficiently. And but it's just as simple as that, really. I think if you come over as nervous, or you're trying to be too chatty, sometimes it can go badly. Or I think it's just about being professional, and that's just experience again.
So talk to me about so say something like big, like Meg 2, hierarchy on set. Who are you? Who outside of your department do you have the most contact with?
It mostly your first AS, your boom operator, is where everything comes through. So they're your eyes and ears on set. So that's your, they will, liaise with DADs, costume. It's they're the first and the second are busy people, and they are front of house, and they are essentially you, really, aren't they? They're the face of the sound team on set, whereas you're probably not. You'll be hidden behind something.
And what is the most fun experience you've had on a film, TV show? I'm sensing you might say Top Gear, but is that the one, or what was sort of the best experience you've ever had?
All the Top Gears and the Grand Tours have been just amazing. Yes, a lot of fun. So that side, because that's sort of almost a given, isn't it, I suppose? Even though they're been extremely tough at times. I think it's tricky, I suppose, with Ben and his stuff, and the people who work with him, who I've known for a long time. Kind of each thing's different, but I really enjoyed working on Field in England, which was his black and white one. It's actually probably one of my favourites he's done. There's just something about the time, and it's not always the work you're doing. Sometimes it's just where you are and the time it's at, But in terms of satisfaction, I think that having done the Meg has got to be, and a lot of our production sound went into that, the location stuff. There's always post in these things, but we got a lot of our stuff in there, and I'm really proud of that.
And if you're starting out, would you advise people to have their own equipment, or would you? Is it worth rushing out and buying stuff, or how would you approach that?
No, it's tricky. I mean, I rented kit for a long time when I was doing the kind of documentary side of things, and it's a pain, because the kit hire house was west and I was east, so if I needed to get something, and you have to build your kit every time from their kit. But I also know that kit is so expensive. I would never advise people to jump in and buy some brand new shiny kit when they're first starting, like never. Look for good deals secondhand. They're always there, sound people are always selling their kit to buy the next new thing. So don't buy the next new thing. Buy the one that they're selling. But also just make sure you like it first. Don't jump in too quick. If you want to do drama, you do that traineeship. You'll soon know. If you like documentary kit obviously is, your kit will be cheaper in the end in terms of the amount. You just don't need as much as you do on dramas. But even then, it's still a lot of money. Just make sure that you're fully in before you commit to buying anything.
Thanks for listening. Please do make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode of the Honest Filmmaker podcast, career advice from people in the business.